Right. Now moving on to the next question. NK Singh Committee is a very important committee in regarding fiscal policy. Okay, it was actually in 2016 and 2017, and we recommended the debt to GDP ratio of 60% for state, center and plus states. Okay, so this says plus states, right? By 22-23. This is actually correct. Okay, center has a debt to GDP target of 40% and state has 20%. Right. So this is actually a correct statement. It proposed creation of a fiscal council to improve the coordination between center and state. This is also correct. It recommended that deviation from fiscal targets should not exceed 1% of GDP under the escape clause. So NK Singh Committee gave two sets of recommendations as well, escape clause as well as buoyancy clause. Okay, so basically NK Singh Committee, it gave targets. Okay, it said that fiscal deficit has to be reduced to 2.5% by the financial year 2023. Okay, 2023, and effective revenue deficit must be 0.8% at the same year, okay, 2023. Financial year 22-23 means 2022 to 2023, right? So these were the targets. Obviously, the government actually missed the target because of COVID, but this was in 2016, it gave the recommendation, right? And then it said that public debt. Okay, public debt should be, for the center it should be 40%, for the state it should be 20% and 60% in total. Okay, 60% in total. So public debt is essentially the whole debt payment. You include the interest payments of the previous years, everything will come under the public debt, right? So public debt is better because you can actually include the off budget borrowings. Okay, in fiscal deficit they might get excluded because fiscal deficit is strictly limiting itself to the budget. Public debt actually takes into consideration all the PSUs and everything, right? So it is a more inclusive number. Okay, it is that number which matters, because fiscal deficit, the governments may use off budget borrowings, they may create another entities, okay, without budgetary support. So fiscal deficit and revenue deficit is strictly coming from the budget. Okay, so anything that is not included in the budget may not be included, right? So public debt is a more accurate measure according to NK Singh Committee, right? Okay, so escape clause. So it said that, okay, these are the targets, but say some war happens, some calamity happens, up to 0.5% of GDP can be exceeded. Okay, so fiscal deficit can go up to 3%, revenue deficit can go up to 1.3%. Okay, so that was actually allowed by the NK Singh Committee. And again, it also provided a buoyancy clause. It said that if the economy's growth is greater than 3%, okay, greater than 3% consecutively, over 3 years or like that, then the fiscal deficit should fall by 0.5% faster. Okay, the target should be 2%. The target will become 0.3%. Okay, so it provided buoyancy clause as well as escape clauses. Okay, buoyancy clause, if the economy is doing good, the fiscal deficit should fall faster. The effective revenue deficit should also fall faster. Same amount, okay, 0.5% was provided for escape clause as well as buoyancy clause. Please read the key if you have any more doubts as well. Okay, so the question here was 1% they said, right? This is actually wrong. Okay, it was not 1%. That flexibility was provided for 0.5%, not 1%. So this is actually wrong, which means only 2 will be the answer. Okay.